Today, we're going to talk about how to make WoW look a little bit more interesting, just kind of more crisp, clear, and just kind of give it that more modern push that kind of brightens up the graphics. There's going to be a ton of different stuff in this, so just kind of bear with me here. This is sort of a new thing for me that I've been trying to do, trying to bring WoW sort of having a cinematic look to it. If you guys have watched any of my recent WoW videos, I tend to try and make it look kind of cinematic with these black bars and all this extra stuff to kind of just make it look more interesting and kind of just cinematic with the widescreen feel to it, like you're watching a movie, so to speak. So everything you're looking at right now is in game. This is all in game. You can turn the UI on and off with Control Z, and that will allow you to kind of have this cinematic view. And sometimes I'll play with a controller and I'll have GSE on, which GSE is a one button macro for people that have disabilities or people that are just lazy. I'd say people that are probably like more lazy than disabled personally, but it was essentially made to help with people that are missing limbs. They have arthritis in their fingers and they can't really play the game. And no, you cannot be banned. I've heard so many arguments and people saying that you can be banned for this, you can be banned for that, but you're not getting banned. It's not a thing that happens. People have been using this for years, and it's not anything that's incredibly crazy. It just allows you to do a rotation without having the need to do like the manual rotation. It's always underperforming an actual player. You're not going to outperform somebody that knows what they're doing, because it uses all the cooldowns, it uses things all at once. So some things are situational and used in various scenarios to the point where like you kind of need to time your cooldowns appropriately instead of just blowing everything whenever you press the button. However, when you're doing casual content like delves or just simple easy dungeons, nothing related to mythics or raiding, if you're just doing the easy stuff in the game that's super casual, this is such an easy way to play the game. You just kind of chill on the couch, pop on the controller add-on, and then you're just you play with this nice little vibe that you got here, and you can turn off the UI and just chill out, some music, and then just look at a really pretty game. So I'll talk about that in a moment, but other than that, the add-ons that I'm using here is, we're going to start with Skinner. So Skinner is an add-on that you can kind of mess around with. I haven't done anything crazy with it quite yet. I've just sort of messed around with the modules. So in the module section, there's a part here called viewport. And what you can do is turn on these black borders. So whenever you start out, you'll have kind of all the borders on the up, down, left, right. And the left and right borders are not really necessary. I mean, if you like it, you like it. I don't like it. I wanted this wide view that I have going on here. And what I did was turn the VP top and bottom to 64 and then VP left and right to 0. This did crash my game like twice. And when I loaded it up, I just had to, move everything back to what it was, which was just 0, 0 for the right and left. Once you do that, it should run fine, but just be aware that this might like crash on setting up. So don't like freak out if it does. Just close the program and then, or just close WoW and then reopen it and then go back into this setting here, which is just type in /skin, and then you can just fix it and just put it to what it is. But it may crash once or twice. No big deal though. Other than that, I don't really mess with anything else in here. I haven't touched anything else, so don't worry about it all that much. If you want to, you can do what you want and explore this. I'm probably going to explore more of this later on, but as of right now, this is all I really wanted to do. So the next thing I'm going to talk about here is this crazy setting. So really quickly, I'm going to go ahead and blur the screen. It's just because I don't want you guys to notice it yet. So with this screen being blurred, I'm going to turn off a setting, okay? And then I'm going to turn it back on, and I'm going to show you the massive difference that this setting does, okay? So right now the game looks, it's kind of pretty. It's, whatever. It's all right. And we're going to go in this house here because I think this house best shows what I'm talking about. So you'll see these kind of dust particles here on the screen. And I got to be honest with you, it's like whatever, it's not a big deal. It's nothing crazy. It's totally just it's kind of just whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. Okay. And you can see it kind of looks pretty. It's okay. And then when I press the 3 key, everything gets a bit more crisp. You can see right there, crisp. Turn this off again, not so crisp. Turn this back on, and then you see just it looks so good. And this applies to everything. So if we go out over here and then we start looking in the distance and stuff, you'll be able to kind of see things more clearly. It's like playing the game with glasses on. That's the way somebody put it one time. And when I first saw this, the YouTube short that showed this, I was like, dude, there's no way this is that big of a deal. And I implore you, please try this macro out. I'm going to show you guys in a second, but I need you guys to try this out because this macro is insane. The video is not going to do it justice. You have to watch this, or you have to do this yourself in your own game, and you will see the massive difference. Like, look at how blurry it gets. Like, it's crazy blurry. And like, you'll see, like, for some reason on OBS, there's like a weird haze going on over there. I don't know what's up with that, but yeah, like there's it's so noticeable. And then when you turn the effects on and off, like you can see the haze, right? Like this is off, and then turn it on, everything's much clearer. It's really weird. And then everything becomes more crisp, and there's a lot of clarity, there's depth. It just feels better. And you can see the detailing in a lot of different things. So like if we look at this lamppost right here, right? You can see it, the edges kind of get blurred out a little bit, and then it's like there's a depth of field. And then you turn the macro on and you can see the grooves and the edges and the lining in the wood much more clear. So how this macro works, we go to macros really quickly, and then I think it's where the hell is this? Oh, right here. It's the FX macro. So I'll go ahead and put this in the description. All you're gonna have to do is just copy and paste it and make your own macro however you want. And that is literally all you have to do. That's legitimately all you have to do is just copy paste this and then click and drag it to one of your action bars and then just turn it on. And then you'll see in the bottom left here in your chat log, you'll have sharpening off and on. I guarantee you had it off to begin with, and when you turn it on, you will never be able to play WoW with it off again, because everything just looks so good and just perfectly clear. So yeah, that is one way to sort of like up the graphics. And there's a setting too in the graphics. So if we go down to the bottom here, there's this resample sharpness. You can turn this to 0.2 and this will make things look a bit more sharper. I don't know that I like this. I think this is too much. Once again, this might be like a video thing that you're not going to notice this, but me looking at my monitor, I notice it, and there's a massive difference between 0.2 and just 0. So I personally don't care for this. So I'm going to keep the resample sharpness on 0.2. I think that's optimal. And the other thing that you're going to want to turn on is resample quality to Fidelity FX Super Resolution 1.0. That's what you're going to want on at all times. And if you want to copy my settings, you can. I'm pretty much just like, this is kind of what I'm doing here. I keep shadows on low because shadows is usually what tanks your FPS for the most part. So I don't really play with high volumetric shadows. Like that just doesn't, like, I can turn it on, but like it makes everything, like, you see what I'm saying? Like I don't know, like my FPS, I can already tell the FPS difference. And even though the shadows and everything, it's cool in theory, it looks great, it's, you know, it adds a bit more immersion to it. I do battlegrounds a lot, and I do a lot of dungeons, and shadows will generally tank your FPS quite a bit. So like, you can play around with it and see if you can find a happy medium. Maybe you have a higher end PC that will allow you to kind of utilize shadows kind of a bit more optimally. But for me personally, I play with them on low because my FPS, like I said, will just, when I go into these epic battlegrounds, my FPS will go straight to the dirt. So it's just not worth it for me. It also doesn't break the immersion too much for me because I still think the game looks very pretty with the shadows on low. So not that big of a deal. But for those of you that might want that, you can do that if you feel like it. Now let's talk about GSE. Okay, so you'll notice here that I have my controller set up, and all of my buttons and everything are tied to my controller. So I just turned on my Xbox controller here. Now the add-on that I'm currently using is Control Port. So you just download a console port and it'll essentially just kind of auto set everything up for you. I didn't change anything with it. I didn't really do anything whatsoever. So it's kind of just, it's up to you how you want to mess with it, but you'll get this little button here in the center, and then you can click it, and then you can sort of change your button inputs. You can change the button combinations. You can, you know, change the key bindings however you want. Like I said, I didn't really mess with this. I just kind of left everything as it is, and I thought it worked fine. Now GSE will take some time getting used to. It's very odd, and some of the buttons are like super dysfunctional. Like it's weird, like when you want to use one of your abilities. So if you get like one of the special abilities that you can, you know, use that are just maybe in a dungeon or a delve, you press LTRTA, and to activate it you have to move the arrow up and then let go of LTRT and then let go of forward and A, and then it'll activate. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't, so you got to do it a couple times. It's not very intuitive when it comes to stuff like that, but when it comes to comboing and utilizing the button inputs, those are okay, but other things are not super great, like navigation on the menus, really not very good. So if you press RT and A, it'll bring up this ring menu, and then you can just kind of select whatever you want. Let's say I want to queue for a dungeon. So I can queue for a dungeon, and you can see I can kind of move the cursor around, but when you start adding a ton of different things, like it becomes a bit of, it just becomes hell to navigate sometimes. Overall, not super crazy about the navigation menu on console port. It's not great, but that's why I'm playing at a desk setup. So typically what I'll do is I'll just press I and then just queue up like this, like with a mouse, because it's just easier to navigate with a mouse. So I'll usually just put the control down for a second, navigate a menu with the mouse and keyboard, and then whenever it comes to gameplay, I'll start playing normally with the I'll start playing normally with a controller, and I won't need to navigate the menu too much. So I'm gonna go ahead and hearth back to Dorngal real quick, and I want to show you guys the GSE add-on and how that functions, because I think that this will be able to give you guys an experience that will make a big difference when it comes to having fun with an immersive gameplay style. So GSE is usually it's a one button macro. Those are the ones that I typically look for because I'm not trying to press a bunch of buttons. That's just absurd. So what GSE does is it allows you to tie one of your keys to a macro, and then you just basically mash that macro over and over and over again, and it will auto combo for you. So if we take a look here at the training dummies, I'll just go ahead and start comboing. All right, now I'm just going to press the RB button, and as you can see, it's doing a bunch of combos. It's doing the whole rotation for me and popping everything. Like I'm just holding the controller with one hand right now, and it's doing everything for me. And that's all it does, right? Now when you do it like this, I can turn off my UI and just play. Like I'm just basically playing this super immersive cinematic style gameplay, and I don't have to worry about anything, and then I can just kind of walk around and everything of that nature. It's nothing crazy, right? So it's really, really cool, and I think it's fun to do that, especially in content of the game that doesn't require you to have, massive brain power, like doing delves or doing low-level dungeons or leveling, questing, things of that nature. Not a big deal. Maybe not questing so much because you might need the mini-map, but whenever you're in a dungeon, for example, like the minimap has like almost next to no use. Like it doesn't do much anyway. Like the minimap, I shit you not, is quite useless in the grand scheme of things for dungeons, other than just following party members, which I mean usually it's not going to be that big of a deal anyway. So the way GSE works is you're going to have to get a bunch of add-ons, or not add-ons, but like macros. And I'll put a link in the description to this website. It's called, I believe, WoW Lazy Macros. And pretty much all that you're going to do is just go here and then pick your class. For me, I'm on a Death Knight right now. And then if you scroll down, you'll see all of these macros for a bunch of different classes, a bunch of different characters, a bunch of different players that are setting things up. And then all you're going to do is follow the instructions that the person goes through. So for example, the one that I'm using right now is Elfie AUs to the War Within version 0.2 Unholy DK. and they just updated it actually like 15 minutes ago, so that's cool. And sometimes the add-ons are a bit out of date, sometimes the add-ons don't even matter, sometimes it's just you're gonna have to research it. I don't play every class, but whenever I happen to start a new character like DK, I do some research into the GSE macros, so that way I can actually do this cinematic play style. And I found Elfie AUs to be the most interesting for Unholy. It's very easy to follow. The tutorial in there is really good, and the talents are great. The damage is amazing. I'm only level 77 on this character. It's going to be a fresh 80 here momentarily, but like I use it on my warrior all the time. I use it on my rogue all the time. There's some classes that don't benefit too much from these macros. Like I think Warlock is one of them that doesn't necessarily go crazy with it, but it's you can use it, but it doesn't really matter. But for some classes, it's just infinitely easier to just kind of turn your brain off, chill out, and play some cool content. Some of these can be used for mythics and some of these can be used for raiding. However, they pop generally a lot of cooldowns and a lot of things for you, and sometimes it might be better for you to do that manually versus having a macro do it for you. So it's not always optimal to just kind of turn this on and then just go AFK and just start pressing one button. Sometimes that just isn't the answer, and you're gonna have to play for real. I will say that for when you're getting started, this is my go-to method to teaching players how to play the game with movement, because everybody's biggest issue is they always have to look at their hotbar. Now for players like me, I've been playing the game for 17 years, so I'm like looking at the hotbars and all the abilities. That's nothing new to me. That's like super easy, and it's just that comes with years on the game. But when you try and introduce a new player to the game, they tend to really get confused and they'll get lost, and they're looking at their keyboard, they're looking at their skills, and they're not being able to look on the screen and be able to move and maneuver. So sometimes you have to move out of abilities that are gonna kill you. Sometimes you're gonna get one-shotted by an ability if you don't move. There's stuff on the floor that you have to get out of, and for them it's complicated to look at the keyboard, look at their abilities, and then also watch where they're standing. So what GSE does is it gets rid of the whole you have to look at the hotbars for the combo, because it's it's a one button thing. You just press one button and you're kind of chilling. That's why I pretty much implore every new player to just kind of, or at least people that I'm teaching initially, like introducing to the game, like don't worry about your combo, just play with GSE for now, and then focus on movement, and then focus on mechanics of the dungeon / raid, and then you will have more fun, because everybody gets really frustrated at looking at hotbars and the keyboard and all the buttons. People get incredibly frustrated at that stuff. So I like GSE for teaching new players how to play the game, but also just for even a veteran like myself that has been playing for 17 years, I just picked up on GSE I think about a month ago, so I just started using it myself. And personally, for a relaxing play style where I can just chill out, turn music on, and just talk and vibe, it's amazing for that. It's so good for that. And that allows me to turn off my UI and have this immersive kind of, look to the game, and I can have fun, and I can just one button press and then I'm doing good DPS. I know everything's manageable. I know everything's good. I know where everything is because I've played this game for so long. So if I'm doing like a classic dungeon, for example, that's time walking, I know where all of that stuff is because I've been playing the game forever. So I can just kind of navigate without having to worry about a mini map or a map. I know where to go. Same thing for delves. I've done the delves hundreds of times by now, so I know where everything is. I know where to go. I know what all the mechanics are, so I don't need to have a UI to tell me don't stand in this, don't stand in that. And then plus DBM and all the other add-ons have audio cues, so they'll typically tell you like don't stand in this. They'll give you an audio cue that you're standing in something stupid, or they'll tell you prepare for this, prepare for that, interrupt this. So it's really easy for you to kind of pay attention to a lot of different things when you have those add-ons turned on. And yeah, that's kind of really it. That's kind of my WoW setup. If you want a detailed tutorial on certain certain parts of this video, let me know. I will try and answer any questions that I can. But other than that, this is my WoW setup for my UI and everything else. And yeah, I will talk to you guys in the next video. Bye bye.